that she wouldn't have that. She wouldn't glow the way her sisters and Will's wife did. She wouldn't dance the way they did. She would be alone, always holding herself apart from the rest of them because she had work to do, because she couldn't let herself open up. A brief vision of a muscular man in a tux floated over her brain. Dark hair and striking blue eyes, broad shoulders that seemed to go on for days. He'd smiled at her, a warm, sensual thing that she hadn't returned. When he'd started her way, she'd known he was going to ask her to dance, and she'd excused herself quickly so she wouldn't have to say no. She'd been a coward. Like she'd been tonight, when she'd had to make the choice between saving Marianne's life and saving her own. "Why would Lisa drive up here?" "I'm fine," she said the words, and was pleased with how perfectly normal they came out. The world around her had turned chaotic again, and it was her job to make sense of it, to force it to be normal through sheer willpower.
"Lila, you were held captive for over an hour," he said gently. "You watched 2 people die, and you couldn't help them. You could have died yourself. I know you're a strong woman, one of the strongest I know, but you're not okay."
Before she could reply that she was fine, that she'd survived and was relieved to have done so, Laurel was rushing in. Her sister's brown and gold hair was up in a messy bun, and it looked like she'd done nothing more than throw on a coat before rushing out in the middle of the night.
"Lila, God, I didn't know. I didn't have the TV on."
Tears streamed down her sister's face. They were obviously going to be very dramatic. She forced herself to stand. Will was right. She needed to get cleaned up. She'd stayed in her scrubs because she hadn't been sure if the police would need them as evidence, but that was a ridiculous thought. After all, it wasn't like there was someone to arrest. The man who'd held her hostage was dead, too. She hadn't saved anyone today. Anyone except herself. And she wasn't sure that was a good thing. "I'm going to take a shower and change. Tell the police I'll give them a statement when I'm done." She tried to give her younger sister a reassuring smile. It couldn't have been easy for her to hear about what had happened. Laurel and Lisa had always looked up to her. Where Will had been responsible for having a job and protecting them, she had been the mom of the group. Even when their mother had been out of prison, it had been Lila's job to ensure they had something of a normal upbringing.
"I'm fine, Laurel. It was a rough night, but I'm all right."
Laurel looked to Will as though she was confused. Will simply shrugged.
"I think it's shock."
Shock. Her mind focused on the word. It was a word she understood. There were 5 major types of shock: anaphylactic, cardiogenic, hypovolemic, neurogenic, and septic. Hypovolemic shock. It was what happened to a body when more than 20% of the blood volume was lost. When blood rushed from a wound. When the wound couldn't be closed because someone held a gun to the head of the only person in the room who could do it, who could save her. "I'm not in shock. You should know the signs." After all, her brother was a neurologist. "I wasn't physically injured." But only because, at the last moment, Marianne's ex-husband had turned the gun on himself. Had he meant to kill her? She couldn't be sure. She only knew that when the time had come to be brave, she'd looked at that gun and done nothing. Her brother put his hands on her shoulders, and it took everything she had not to step away from him.
"I wasn't talking about physical shock. You were held captive. You were forced to watch your friend die. He could have killed you. You are in shock."
"I'm not the one who died."
Marianne was. Marianne, who'd almost gotten away. Marianne, who'd chosen to leave her abuser. She'd been brave, and it had cost her everything. Lila had nothing. That was what she'd realized in those moments when she'd knelt on the floor and waited for the bullet that would end her life. She had nothing.